think the real big thing this year is bringing the Tony Hawk franchise to the next generation machines, the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. So what that entails, for the most part, is taking a big look around and then rebuilding our entire game engine from the ground up.
This one in particular is time to make our mark in the next generation. You know, we've had numerous successful titles on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, and this year we just wanted to completely redo everything, start from the ground up. I mean, obviously keeping some of the core components that make the series great, but stripping our engine down and just rebuilding from the basics, and making our mark on the next generation is my and the team's personal objective.
So we're talking reworking physics, reworking our animation system. The entire rendering engine is being rebuilt from the ground up. So we'll be looking at all the next gen technology, working with shaders, whole new lighting model, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm really totally excited about the way the whole package is starting to come together.
As far as graphics and sound, it means taking it to the next step. So with graphics, it's having, you know, shadow maps, environment maps, normal maps, ambient light maps, everything, you know, shader, DirectX shader technology, everything that we didn't have in the last game, even on the 360, we want to bring. So we're completely redoing that on that end. So the graphical front will be a major step up. The audio front, you know, we're mixing more channels, we're having true surround sound, you know, there's going to be 64 voices playing. I mean, we're really bumping that up, and that's going to be, you know, an immersive experience. We've quadrupled our audio staff since the last game, so we're really making big strides there.
There were a few things we wanted to address with the open world this year, and so I think the best way I can describe it is when we're finished, you're going to have just one giant contiguous area that is going to be completely skatable. So this time around, as you go from zone to zone, all the zones will just completely feed into one another with lines going and connecting them one to another. And I don't think we maybe pulled that off as well last year as we're going to this year. So it's already really feeling like once you're in the world, you're never going to leave it. Well, let me talk just a little bit about the theme of the game this year. It's picture you're growing up, middle America, and all of a sudden the entire world finds out that the complete over-the-top hotspot to skate is your town. And so pretty soon, who starts showing up? Some of the world's biggest name pros start showing up in your town. And obviously your goal is going to be working your way up and skating through middle America as you run across all these big name pros. And so that's kind of the angle we're going to take on that this year. And a lot of that really comes from a lot of the feedback that we get, and that is that people really want to get into the game and play as themselves. And so we do research on that kind of stuff, and then the goal is really give the people what they want, you know.
Well, you'll start by selecting your character, and this year, you know, a lot of people will be happy to hear that we are having female skaters, creative skaters, in the story this year. Tony Hawk's come to your town. He's visiting your town where you live with his group of pros, and he's looking for hot 8 amateur skaters out there. And what we're going to do is we're going to have you know, real amateur skater names populating like an exposure meter type list. And you are, you know, you'll open up your door, right? You're in your grunged out bed. You're in your grunged out bedroom. You open your door and you see your town, which is this like kind of strange Midwestern suburban town that's in the foothills of a theme park. So you've got your kind of tacky, gaudy token shops and stuff. But then there's other things you would expect, like an auto factory and a school. So, you know, it's got all these kind of fun, zany areas that we've had in past games, plus like, you know, a suburban area in your town center. We want this game to just have tons of stuff to do. So as you open your door, you're going to see like 10 different goals that you can complete. And as you progress through, there's always going to be a ton of options. That's another thing we want to stress this year, is just always give the player options. Try not to have linear sections of gameplay. Like really keep it broad and open. And everything you do in the game is going to, you know, everything you complete is going to move your way up the rankings. The goal is to be in the top 8, hence Project 8. So you'll see the pros throughout the progression. The pros will come to town. They'll be giving you specific challenges. They'll be mentoring you, having competitions, demos, things throughout town where you'll see them, and you'll progress onward. So.
I think after having made, 7 Tony Hawk games, and now we're going to make the 8th one, you look back on the history of the games, and every game is different. So each one's going to have its strengths, and each one, quite frankly, is going to have some weaknesses. So for me, that's pretty easy. I just read the game reviews, right? And then I commence to addressing things from the previous year or years on a go-forward basis. So this time around, something that I really want to kind of focus on is getting back to the goals, the what you do in the game. And that's something that's, I think, really is part of the foundation of the entire franchise. I pick the controller up, I got to have some really fun stuff to do.
There's such a wide variety of players that play the Tony Hawk games that some are kind of novices and some are extremely skilled. We want to provide a compelling experience for everyone. And so what we're doing is we're having 3 different tiers of difficulty per goal, every goal in the game. And I would put this game on par with like a Tony Hawk 4 and like the number of goals and the depth and variety that you'll see. So, novice players will be able to get through, and sick players will be extremely challenged. I mean, this game is going to basically like span the spectrum of gamers out there. With all the improvements we're doing this year and the kind of rebuilding from the ground up, we aren't putting this skate park editor like you've seen in the past in the game, but what we are doing is including numerous areas throughout the city where you can actually move pieces, combine pieces together, shift them around, and almost create more of a puzzle-like aspect to completing certain goals and missions. So you'll be able to take an oil drum and a piece of wood and move them around together, or create a ramp, which then you can move a rail around to create a line that allows you to get from one spot to the other. And there's going to be these sections all over the world. They're always going to be available, and when you change the pieces, they'll stick. They'll be like that, until you go back and change them again. So there'll be specific goals and missions that take advantage of these movable piece areas. But once you change them, you can always go back and move them around later. We're putting a big emphasis on adding pedestrian life to the game, seeing a lot more skaters, just tons of skaters skating around the world, sessioning in small groups. You'll see them wander along what we call the navigation mesh. From spot to spot, skaters will get off their board, get back on their board, walk across town, hit a vert ramp, session a stair set. So just bringing overall pedestrian life into the world is one thing we really wanted to focus on this year with the next generation. But what we're also doing is we're rewarding the players for just skating around and doing big tricks in front of these pedestrians. So just by doing huge combos and big tricks in front of people, they'll give you what we're calling tokens, which can be spent at the skate shop to buy lots of different things. New special tricks, special decks that can be used to up your stats, or motion capture tricks for our motion capture viewer, various other things. So we're really trying to just reward the player for skating around and doing big tricks, not being in a goal, just kind of like ambient skating in front of pedestrians and skaters and such. As well as the pros and the peds, there's also more of your neighbors in the neighborhood that are kind of story, or as Joel said, vignette-based characters that add typical Neversoft humor to the mix. So. Well, in previous years we'd actually have challenges that you do. So it'd be like grind 20 feet in a combo or get 5 feet of air. This year it's much more, I'll say RPG-ish, where you'll have to grind throughout the lifetime of the character. So it might be grind 100,000 feet throughout your lifetime, and you'll go up an experience point, and so you'll get a stat increase in grinding. Get 10,000 feet of air, do X number of 360-degree rotations, and each one of those will set the bar. So you'll truly be the more you grind, the more your stats increase. The more you get air, the farther you can go, in a sense. So it's less challenge-based, more historical. Do a lot of historical tracking in this game, as far as records and stats and everything. With 360 achievements, myself being a complete achievement whore, we really want to spread them out so that players are encouraged to play all the game that's there. I mean, with the Tony Hawk games, there's just so much there that you know, achievement points is a really good way of allowing players to kind of, or encouraging them to try out and do all aspects of the game. So, you know, we'll have standard achievements progressing through story mode at different, you know, completing some of those particular goals I'd mentioned as AM, Pro, and SIC levels, but also encouraging online as well. So, you know, there will be achievements like, you know, winning so many matches online, something which we did not do last year. So, you know, you will need to be a pretty well-balanced player to get 1,000 achievement points in this game.
You know, I've heard the rumor that somebody else might be making a skateboarding game. And just so everybody knows, I've been thinking a lot about that. So from me to you, Tony Hawk franchise ain't going anywhere. We're going to be here. We'll be here this year. We'll be here next year. We'll be here the year after. And we're pretty much here to kick your ass.